Scene 1, Beginnings. Part 1. Virginia natives Grace and Mercy fell in love with each other on their college campus. As first-generation graduates, their academic success is clouded by their family's murky disdain for their queer lifestyle. After graduation, Grace's family, hoping her relationship with Mercy was a phase, forced Grace to move back home and not into Mercy's shared apartment. Unbeknownst to Grace's family, she and Mercy continued to secretly date. After months of job searching, Grace lands an opportunity to work for a notable LGBTQIA nonprofit in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to gain substantial clinical hours while studying to become a licensed therapist. Despite having a master's degree in cultural anthropology, Mercy has been unsuccessful in securing gainful employment. Therefore, Mercy has been making ends meet as a bartender. Against her family's wishes, Grace proposes to Mercy with a photo journal and their favorite song. They then road trip to Philadelphia to begin anew.
I want to slow dance.
I want to slow dance. Toe rapping, beat snaps that cadence down my spine, dipping me until I can no longer keep time.
Where tango and merengue, salsa, samba, the ballroom, foxtrot atop, backbone beats, grooving delicately to arm freestyle.
I need to slow dance.
I need to slow dance.
Embrace. Point and flex where I've never been before, waltz spooning to rhythms unprecedented.
I crave to slow dance.
I crave to slow dance.
Ballet balance to the cleft lullaby in my heart, each half note tatted with your name. Veins pulse for only you.
The promenade.
I always yearn for.
Scene 1, Part 2. June of 2014, on the steps of Philadelphia City Hall, with their favorite song playing in the background, Grace and Mercy elope with a justice of the peace as passerbys witness their union. As they recite their vows, a photo array of their journey swirls blissfully around them.
Mercy, every day you touch the space fears inhabit unabashed. We cuddle, cradled in unspaced parentheses, adore how we whisper forevers in silent vows. Love is written this way.
Grace. I can't write poetry where our love resembles Georgia O'Keeffe over acrylic and open mic nights and wet dreams. To sound deep on similes where penis pole scale strippers erecting fabled fantasies. I can't write poetry where chandeliers on their last nerve dry dangle tricks, where neighbors scream my name and not my humanity. I can't write poetry where the woman, fifth seat from the back, gains the courage to ask me out because my soul sings better than my words. Not a legal crook using synonyms for the antonyms of reality. Why do time for rhythm and rhyme when we can stand still, embrace, coil, infinity loop around synapses that make parchment pen memories it regals alone? I can't write poetry, but I try because I love you.
I love you. I do.
I do.
Grace and Mercy are walking through their North Philadelphia neighborhood. Assessing the surroundings and new community, Grace lovingly grabs Mercy's hand. Snickering and questioning glances from some of the neighbors make Mercy release Grace's grasp. Confused, Grace reaches once more for Mercy's hand and is denied. They continue to walk down the rest of the block towards their apartment building.
When a tear falls, who is it for? When a heart breaks, who is it for? When a soul aches, who is it for?
Who is it for when a bloodied body heaves for clarity? Who is it for when brown hands grasp for honesty? Who is it for when pain is caged chasm?
When hung wrists bleed, who is it for? When the rope snaps, who is it for? When screams summon for release, who is it for? Who is it for when weeping water drops splash upon cased pillows?
Who is it for when bubbling rage is hotter than a volcano's whisper to the dawn?
Who is it for when nothing equals?
What's left?
Scene 2, NIMBY North, Part 1. On a temperate Saturday afternoon, Grace sits on the apartment stoop to read a book. Across the street, sounds from a neighbor's radio coat the air while the community hustle and bustle cacophony the day. Groggy from a late-night bar shift, Mercy sluggishly roams the apartment looking for Grace. Looking out the window from their studio apartment towards the street below, Mercy spots Grace and flashes a half smile. Heading towards the kitchen, Mercy pours coffee into their cup and joins Grace on the stoop.
Mother Angelou talks about the pulse of mourning.
But she ain't seen Philadelphia at 5 a.m. It's like a freeze frame of pseudo-success and malice, where pigeon-crowned birds search for sustenance from gentrification and earthly decay. The mastodon then had a better outlook.
There's talk of brotherly love, sisterly companionship, racial equality, gender equity.
And neither exists where it matters. Hunkered down in the hustle and bustle, common decency takes a back seat in the minivan, carpooling to straitjacketing workloads that are still whites only, segregated justice arriving on the heels of hijacked hydrants on 90-degree days, busting the flesh of civility. See, from Jenna to Philly, people still rock to the tune of deviants.
Leaving the river and tree.
Holding the banner for ignorance, this new day dawning has already set, for the sun can never shine on theory.
Clearly, the only thing constant in the world is change.
Since the only change seen jangles in the cups of the destitute.
We live a life of variables
that don't play fair.
Scene 2, Part 2. Snuggled on the futon, Mercy decides to turn on the television. Slightly grimaced, Grace gets up to prepare a sandwich, then returns to the futon to sit under Mercy. A breaking news coverage about a neighborhood shooting interrupts local programming. Concerned, Mercy focuses on the unfolding news coverage. Grace, half-heartedly tuning in, continues eating her sandwich and scrolling through her phone.
Continually baffled by deceit, declarations of justice and civility, written lyrics of harmony created by the hand of a cop.
All men are created equal. They are endowed by their creator with unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mismanaged text by revered men, leaders that preach change on a Sabbath day, honoring hierarchy during the week, caramelizing freedom with ink and quill, enslaving the bronze and the downtrodden from Hancock, Bartlett, Whipple, and Thornton, Franklin, Witherspoon, Penta, Hoover, Reagan, Bush, Trump, Clinton, biding time, bold, brazen, and bad business will kill your family and make you watch it over and over and over again, proving moot point of unnecessary war.
An American action flick.
Forcing humanity to do its own stunts out of buildings that are heaven stories high, through seas, flapped across shores and slammed into walls.
Bordered from dreams, concentrated to the margins.
A national blockbuster of shame and malevolence, homegrown terrorism, white supremacist syncopated patriotism waving flags to a dishonest wind. Will it ever end?
Another breaking story blares through the television. Grace cleans up the crumbs from her sandwich, then prepares the futon and gets ready for bed. Slightly frustrated, Mercy turns off the television, changes clothes, and gets ready for work.
Want to dive headfirst into you, plunge, splash new awakenings, submerge imperfections, come up for air in the vastness of your aqueous comfort. But who knew you were shallow?
Scene 3, Walkabout West. The loud buzz of Mercy's alarm clock wakes Grace. Reaching over to silence the noise, Grace lovingly kisses Mercy all over. Coquettishly, they lower each other out of bed to prepare for a day's work.
Sienna burnt, fingertip trail mapped, traveled, euphoria, sangria, scarlet, satin sheets, leaked tales where walls remain, abundantly jealous, no longer aplomb to future gossip, for you're only to the satisfactory yell, flesh, flame, gammon, folly.
After moments, Harlequin estrus sets in, hoping for repetition. Midnight blues flax when goodbye render no point of return. Charcoal charred replay of messages were mixed if ecstasy and ecstasy were beige through fuscus. Runic rusty gray lines sketched old adages unbandaged.
After dressing one another, they exit the apartment. Mercy puts on earphones and walks alongside Grace to the subway station. After connecting to a trolley, they finally arrive in West Philadelphia. Once in her office, Grace hangs up her blazer, places her bag on the desk, sits on the couch, puts on her glasses, and prepares for her first client. Mercy walks a few more blocks over to the local bar and begins a shift. Though apart, it's as if Grace and Mercy are in dialogue with one another.
Let's take a moment to establish a safe place. Place both feet on the floor. Find a center. Now, what are you thinking? Let's start small and see what happens.
Wisdom comes from Black women in coffee shops with freshly unfolded newsprint conversation drenched in caffeinated ink, verbiage fluttering in the air as banners of knowledge, pride, and political rebellion rimmed lenses atop a bridge nose. With each phrase, it turns itself to reprimand idiocy and lies.
Okay, growing up, is there an image in your mind that has painted that message for you?
Truth comes from old Black men in barbershops where justice is balanced. Shape-ups and haircuts serve as freeways tipping the world's inadequacies to equality. With a swish of a hairbrush and whisk of hair clippers, silently they run the world. No one hears them. They are debunked as common and uneducated.
Hmm. Any specific memories or moments that replay to highlight this thought for you?
Deception comes from the mouths of the ill-informed, privilege wrapped in pumpkin spice and whimsy. Gossip is the news of the day, scrolling social media for the mundane, secretly wishing they knew what life felt like.
Okay, let's bring your center back into the room.
Redemption stems from the weary, sipping freedom through broken glass. The blood-red vodka leaves the palate contemplating unreasonable reason. While bobbing on bar stools, the mind secretes, the wallet depletes, and the soul finds sobriety in the long walk home.
Hmm. Depression is an anger turned inward. Can we continue to dialogue about this? What are you feeling?
Mercy serves the last order, then prepares to close out the bar to end this shift. Grace's session with the second client is coming to an end.
Denial smiles from the mouth of a child that fabricates to uphold parental self-esteem.
The beginning to the end of anything meaningful.
For humanity remains saturated in the fear of reality.
Black fibs vesting as growth spurts.
White lies seamlessly stroke pubescent dreams.
Where gray emissions coat the non-negotiable truth. How does that make you feel?
Time will tell.
Grace and Mercy meet up and commute home. When they arrive to their neighborhood, police sirens and first responder vehicles score the air as they approach their apartment building. Community members are frantically shuffling in and out of each other's homes. Gunshots ring out. Nervous, they grab each other's hands and dash towards the front door of their apartment building.
The river tangles wildly.
The beaver dance is riches.
The fowl nestles, neatly squawking peace against the dawn.
We watch life burst beneath the sun.
Pulling for serenades, grasping needled nightfall, never wanting more than a gaze.
The look, the gawk, burping, blundering, majestic melee, secretly searing shelf shortcomings, points, kind, posturing, jealous it employs, euphoria sends approval from our souls. We watch life burst beneath the sun.
Grace and Mercy sit in silence under a dimmed lamplight, holding each other's hands as police and first responders disperse from the block.
Life without music is like a heart that stutters to the tone of silence.
Mute, deaf to rhythmic pleasures, nothing to yin-yang the balance, trebles to note yet unfounded, product of auto-tune. We dance to the splinter mundane, toast to the ill-advised, cone watermelon rides of treasured epic pastimes, remix the wade in the water to shallow hums of a spat-on future. Tepid saliva beatboxing, turning culture into a whitewashed drum cadence, whipping hair back and forth at the expense of Kunta's spine. Blood drops compose the song of failure.
Where all of our children's children will know the lyrics and never their name.
We stopped watering our roots. Tar baby molasses, the image glued to our retinas as ramification for the 3 count, 2-step, Chuck jive just to survive. Thanks to a forgotten 40-acre Lemieux compromise, we continue to be a dream deferred. We have stopped watering our roots. Wombs, looming lies, bench-worn pride, maelstrom cacophony conducted by our hands.
Blaming a master plan for the outcome of settled mediocrity as new age entrepreneurs.
We've taken to lynching ourselves. Goals dangle on loop-dry branches. Once they snap, fall short. Back to the block where it all began.
Auctioneer to oral tradition no longer resembles the white stranger.
That panhandle our sanctity between great-grand's legs. Secretions of her golden valor now adorn and robber's delight. The residue worn around one's neck chains. Locked gold attained via the bent and folded greenbacks, flat back for less than we're worth. We stopped watering our roots with bass beats and syncopated quarter notes. History is buried without proper funeral. Procession music decrescendos its true voice.
Now have compositioned overture, pauper graved.
Could have been avoided.
If we hadn't stopped.
Watering our roots.
Scene 4, Severance South, Part 1. Despite the heavy February chill, Grace and Mercy pack up their North Philly studio apartment and move into a 2-bedroom rental home in South Philadelphia. Becoming fatigued, Mercy turns on the radio to drown out the mundane of moving. The radio station pauses music to broadcast the 3rd anniversary of Trayvon Martin's death. He would have been 21 years old. Surrounded by crates, boxes, and haphazardly arranged furniture, Grace and Mercy sit nestled together on the floor, remembering the moments of Trayvon Martin's passing in disbelief. Here, they unload the idea of being parents.
If my son was
Trayvon Martin. He'd be the embryonic melee I crafted from neglecting my past, adorned in media backlash, hood-donned in new ghettos where neighbors watch neighbors gun down peace and candy-coated innocence complacent to the status quo. My arms the concrete streets he now lays his head, where strangers click like at his funeral, retweeting eulogy as symbol of activism.
if my son was
Trayvon Martin or Lawrence Allen.
the Scottsboro boys and Emmett Till would have etched told you so's through my uterus, raping aborted hope from the lining of my womb, reminding me it's not over until the white lady screams. If my son was
Trayvon Martin, Lawrence Allen, or Christopher Arnold, X would mark the spot. The never-ending cycle of debauchery where tranquility is found in blood-stained blueprints history. The skipping American booze record drowning future in scapegoated fortune masked in white noise. White noise fades to black where black fades to the inseam of the mainstream agenda. Executing truth to the lies of judge and jury as I am Troy Davis t-shirts become currency for Oscar Grant in the misfires of justice. Tasing our faces with the same paint used to tell our legacy. Lethargy, the paralysis we allow to tattoo in tar-covered pigmented yesteryear.
if my son was
Trayvon Martin, Lawrence Allen, Christopher Arnold, or John Africa.
it would just be Another Thursday, April 4th, 1968. Assassinated mountaintop hopes. Too high for the consciousness of some. If my son was
Trayvon Martin, Lawrence Allen, Christopher Arnold, John Africa, or Antoine Rose, he'd be the fraternal twin of the Gen-6 that swung like new news until the nation grew tired of hanging its dirty laundry.
if my son was
Trayvon Martin, Lawrence Allen, Christopher Arnold, John Africa, Antoine Rose, or Dennis Plowden Jr.
it means I still live in a world where I failed to do my part,
Where motherland means mother-wounded circumstances.
attempting to balance inequities with commercial apologies.
Until social constructs mean more than updating Twitter to stumble upon a new call to action, I'll postpone his entry into society so they'd never, ever call him headline. To let him know that as his mother, it's better that I pull the trigger.
For tomorrow must be better.
A fusty reminder that security isn't secure.
Preparation needs preparation.
Suited Wells coded the place once might added them.
Scene 4, Part 2. Days have passed. Grace takes a break from unpacking. Grace walks over to an unmarked box and pulls out a fertility book and pamphlets from various clinics. Losing track of time, Grace settles into the couch with her literature. Unbeknownst to Grace, Mercy is coming home from a rough shift at the bar. Barging through the door, Mercy begins to unload the day's events, but is paused when seeing what Grace is reading.
Time!
Time, and again, stumble, not knowing we're falling, fell, not being caught. Damn it, Mercy, want a family, children, can't change who I am. But time, and again, stumble.
Lessons. The soul search, unknowns on the outline, forcing the unwritten word, confused yet stumbling, still falling, time and again. No net to catch the pain, cry, hot, melting tears of suffering. Can't erase the throbbing grace.
Sing on to ease the pain. Barren, strange fruit, blood on the leaves, and blood at the root. Sing on continuously to drown out sorrows that cloud sanity, being foolish, maybe, but senselessness, not ever. Just sing on continuously, the lesson, the soul search, confusion, not knowing we're falling, fall each time and again.
Catch!
Grasping for slippery hands, wet hands, abandoned by hands.
All hands?
The only way out.
No grip.
Fall.
Not knowing where to yearn. Salvation leaks from the oily palms.
No support.
Voice unheard.
Yelling to muted ears.
Each time.
Time and again.
Not knowing we're falling. Discarded. Time and again. Self-comfort can't heal wounds. Without strength, powerless. I matter, I say. All lives, they retort. You don't know how it feels, I exclaim. We never had to, they aside. No one listens. Their decision each time and again. Not knowing we're falling.
I need to breathe. Time time and again. The breath, unknown hands reaching for life. Is it too late to weather together? Cries unheard, the reach out. No nets to catch the pain. Knived injustice, secure discomfort. Spitting flesh leaves no peace. One of family, children, can't change who I am. Deaf to futures? Each time and again.
Not knowing we're falling.
Fell.
Mercy walks over to an unmarked box and pulls out a large, half-empty bottle of rum. With bottle in hand, Mercy goes to the kitchen, pulls out a cup, pours a heavy dose of rum, and chugs it down. Still on edge, Mercy pours more and more alcohol. Grace tries to wrestle the drink from Mercy's hand, but is unsuccessful. A crestfallen Grace withdraws inward, gathers the fertility book, the pamphlets, and returns to tidying the house to calm down.
To you, I'm a story. Dalliance in paragraphic penmanship, a literary illusion, putrid pages caressing picked language, inked lyrics with the well running dry when forging the truth, scribbled moonshine pictures and tipsy shadows, plastering bodies before sheets, scripting miraged hope. A fool to play the main character, the vixen dying at the ballpoint, digs periods through each sentence. We aren't a murder mystery to be read over crumpets and tea, the Earl Grey with pinky pointed sophistication gazing through a highly bidded screenplay. To you, I'm just a story.
To you, I'm a dalliance in paragraphic penmanship, not receiving co-authorship nor editing credit. Dejected outline character traits masquerading as leathered foes holding melancholy melodrama where silence seems so loud, moving slowly through this silent picture stagnant with unreason. Hostage to whether words and images, forced to steady unknown pace, mute object in the flip book. The ripped remains of dignity.
To you,
To you,
I'm just a story.
a dalliance in paragraphic penmanship.
But
Mercy continues to pour drinks one after another. Grace aggressively intervenes.
you swaddled me like I was your one, only nuzzled life in your liberty. Somehow I knew pursued happiness would never lie to me. It's one notion under God.
Raised with allegiance, crawl to a republic for which I stood, indivisible to the stars and bars that sung tucked lullabies to my soul with anthems for heartbeat, never feeling my own drum. Penned legacy through my lineage, never learning injustice's name until it oozed out of a bullet of a stranger that looked like me. Veracity couched in algorithms that fluctuate by the closing bell, never knowing my worth, yet somehow I hope pursuit of happiness will never lie to me. It's one notion under God.
And even at strike.
Despite many prayers, puberty leads to university to further see the bleeding red stopping never, white checked over black eyes, not sparkle blue like the sea, brown. At the back of the class, though, promised a passage I remember. I forgot, never knowing why answers shackled in muted supplications, searching for wealth, tugging my pride because still reaching for relief. Somehow I thought pursuit of happiness would never lie to me. It's one notion under God.
And Even at strike 3, I let pastimes be bygones. We drank tea, pseudo-text-free, laughed at others that didn't understand our history. We danced to the rockets' red glare, kissed when they burst in the thin air, painting our future as if no one else was there, engaged to the idea of the picketed dream and the 2.5 mini-me's, not knowing our first dance was our last. Still, never letting me lead, but somehow I wished pursued happiness would have never lied to me. It's one notion under God.
Scene 5, Core City Truths, Part 1. Grace and Mercy are visibly exhausted, but now, prominently displayed on the wall is a framed copy of 2020's most influential young LGBTQIA therapists, an article featuring Grace. Banners, streamers, and balloons of congratulations are messily dangled around the house. In her hands, Grace holds an offer letter to an elite private practice in Center City. While Mercy is lazily cleaning up napkins and paper plates, they hear a phone chime. Mercy has received an email from a local university where they applied for employment. Unfortunately, Mercy has not been selected to continue on as a candidate. But with Grace's new position and salary, she wants to move from South Philly. Mercy, not wanting to move again, leaves Grace feeling distraught.
Told me we would dance on moonlight and kiss while still water turned pale with jealousy, that tomorrow was yesterday's dream to wake up alongside me, create the us uninked by strangers. Told me we were each other's one, only, with whatever left to muster on my chest. Told me to have faith in you. The problem, I did.
Leaking regrets between index and middle, concluding you reek of rancid trial and error, spewing sweet grandeur glazed in halogen halitosis, liquored nightmares, grim mouth flaps masquerading as courage, alternating fallacy. So when chest clutches for cersitized seconds, brailed impermeable fragments regale tales that wish to be forgotten, unaware it was a palm.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long, long way from home.
They'll neglect to tell you that the city of brotherly love and sisterly companionship never mentioned you as siblings, nor addressed you as cousin at the family picnic where you watch privilege play under the echoes of strange fruit. So as your lineage hangs like dirty laundry between branch between the American dream and the Greek reality of history, you'll only have enough change to beg SEPTA to carry you to the end of a constitutional tagline that's getting there. Hoping, waiting for a moment to go back home, realizing you never really had one. They'll neglect to tell you July 4th, 1776 was the largest pleated fifth, how the rocket's red glare is a reminder that you, niggers, still too big for your borrowed britches, will never sit on this Columbus throne. So to the right hand of the founding fathers of Osage County, burst through airs of your legacy. And as the smoke dissipates, Drexel and UPenn give white flight space to call home. A camp, no us. They stroll in their supremacy, unaware of heaving brown brethren walking through them. They'll neglect to tell you about the unsung Cosby kids with tombstones for lungs, how they attempted to knuckle and kneecap, thinking the pomp and circumstance could push their batagari down Diamond Street. How bleeding cherry and white means zilch if you're still black in the daylight. You see, in our country, the bell tower strikes. Each hour a Temple T gets its wings, not ever once having to look great grandnana in the eyes as her home is buried with her. Land developers cash their bonded promissory in the glint of sapphire IFOs who only gaze back north to render cautionary tale to urban legend to their seeds. They'll neglect to tell you that while you were sleeping, they scratched English onto your Igbo tongue. So by the time you could taste what freedom sounded like, you spit a heritage foreign to your bloodline. They've straightened your mind, your spine to forget how gay you once stood. Narrowed your nose in clouded truth. They've lightened your soul. They've trained you to change your ashes to amens. You flip through rusted rhetoric, sip its holy water as Mother Earth sits lonely, waiting for her Bible-fed prodigal daughter to return home from school, her son from prison, or either at all. They'll neglect to tell you it wasn't your fault. You, the onyx concept missing your seat to the transatlantic exchange or proper invitation to tea. You, feared solely in theory, your discourse hardly making the great decades of passing you through the system, they yielding not ever to explain. You, part of a plan, fine printed in the profits of City Hall, bringing you only to the table when company comes, bought and sold to the highest pipeline, deserted suffrage, the hollow cost of Market Street. They'll neglect to tell you that you would have perished long before Valley forced the draft, long before you were exiled from Northern Liberties, long before you ever hearing an apology.
Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. A long, long way from home. A long, long way from home.
Scene 5, Part 2. Mercy begins to frantically gather personal belongings and pack boxes. Grace attempts to stop Mercy by blocking the path from room to room and box to box with no avail. An emergency text alert pings from both Grace and Mercy's phone. Due to protests, civil unrest, and COVID-19 safety regulations, a citywide lockdown has been put into effect.
A war is brewing. You can't pretend it doesn't exist because you chose to be silent on race or politics. It doesn't disappear in the changing seasons or because the neighborhood gentrified your reasons. At the expense of communal legacy, we pledged allegiance to broke stars and bars on stolen soil, toiled by Hugh skewed in reference books. We lost civics and civility when a vote on the voice meant more than our own. When the shackles were detached from the flesh but impregnated in the mind. When heartbeats became metrics. When rights turned to privileges. When humanity stopped giving a damn.
A war is brewing?
Your job. On our streets. In our town. On our block. On our stoop. In our home. With our family. In your heart.
A war is brewing.
And you started it. I think it doesn't concern me because.
I usually don't say anything because.
Or that was in the past because.
A war is brewing.
At our front door.
In our home.
On our stoop.
In our home.
On our street.
In our home.
On our block.
In our home.
With our family.
In your heart.
A war is brewing and you started it.
The skipped heartbeat that murmurs to the pulse of absence, the pregnant pauses of past moments uncaptured, time's unscheduled lunch break, overeating syntax with bulimic conjecture, pretending to believe the ideologies of anorexic candor, fully knowledgeable of silence's obesity at the neglectful hands attached to the inconsiderate, the dance of the forbidden where the solutions of others are an expensive hindsight, the economic downturn of your nickels and dimes scream, soothing the nausea of a hungered belly. Depression smells like the tales of fourth grade nothing, hanging themselves by elapsed promises, bed sheet necklaces, and lancet bracelets because the mirrored image never truly mouthed a duration in return. Depression smells like the smell I no longer want to smell like me.
Freedom. Freedom tastes. Freedom tastes like. Freedom tastes like we never knew who we were.
Mercy picks up a box and continues to gather a sundry of household items.
They'll neglect to tell you the only constants in the world are the presence of life and the inevitability of death.
Daily, we die in varying ways, having to lie for peace or pleasure, having to stand, falling short, having strength and weakened flashes, when shifting love to hate and difference, when orgasming essence of soul with embodied strangers to embrace the excitable mundane.
Because life exists in the construction of hope, alarm clock wishes of next moment possibilities, acknowledged and graced mistakes and deliberate upsets, present in should-bes that could manipulate the stasis of actuality where ebb flows in the maybes. They'll neglect to tell you the only constants in the world are the presence of life and the inevitability of death, where nothing equals.
What's left? What's left? What's left?
Mercy finally packs the last box. Weary, Grace slides to the ground. Tears trickle down Grace's face as Mercy grabs Grace's hand and turns over the house keys. Then Mercy puts in earbuds, clicks on the music apps, and plays their wedding song, grabs a box, walks towards the door, never looking back. End of play.